My elderly neighbor left her mailbox open in a storm. I closed it for her. The next day, she screamed at me for tampering with her government property. Days later, I was visited by federal agents. She'd reported me as a threat. When I confronted her, she whispered, "You don't belong here. I'll make sure you leave." And then I received a certified letter stamped with, "I moved to Woodbridge, Virginia, last fall. I work remote in IT, don't party, don't cause trouble." I was just trying to get away from city noise and live somewhere quiet. Found a decent place in a clean little cul-de-sac. Everything seemed fine the first couple of months. Most of the neighbors waved. Some smiled. Some didn't. No big deal. I didn't move here to make friends, just needed peace. Across the street was an older woman named Loretta Hemsworth. Late 70s, lived alone. I only knew her name because the realtor mentioned it during the closing. Said she was a fixture of the neighborhood. I saw her most days through her window. She was always looking out. Always. Like she was guarding something. Anyway, about 2 months in, we got hit with a nasty storm. Late January. Freezing rain, high winds, thunder. It shook the windows. Power went out for a while. Around 11 p.m. I looked outside and saw Loretta's mailbox swinging open in the wind. Mail flapping around. It was getting soaked. I figured she forgot to close it. She's old. Maybe she didn't realize it was open. Whatever. I threw on a raincoat, walked across the street, and shut the thing. Took maybe 10 seconds. Didn't even look around. Next morning, around 7:30, I'm dragging the trash bins to the curb. That's when I hear her shouting, You touched my mailbox!" I turned and saw her standing at the edge of her porch in a bathrobe, finger pointed at me like I stole her dog. What? You tampered with government property. That's a federal offense." I thought she was joking. I laughed a little. I just closed it. It was open during the storm. You had no right. You think just because you moved and you can go snooping around where you don't belong? Now I was confused. She was shaking. Her face was red. I looked around. Nobody else was outside. Just me, standing there with a trash bin, being yelled at for something I thought was neighborly. I was just trying to help, I said. She didn't respond. Just turned and walked back inside. I stood there a minute, not sure what just happened. Figured maybe she had dementia or something. Let it go. 3 days later, I found out I should have taken it seriously. I was in the middle of a Zoom call when someone rang the doorbell. I muted myself, opened the door, and there were 2 guys in suits. They showed me badges. Real ones. DHS. I thought I was being pranked. They asked to come inside. One was tall, maybe early 40s, sharp jawline, real serious. The other was older, heavy-set, bald, with calm eyes. "We're investigating a report filed by a resident on this block," the tall one said. "Says you may be a threat to their safety." I laughed. Thought they had the wrong house. "What? A neighbor reported you for tampering with federal property and suspicious behavior. Said you were casing her home?" "She's talking about the mailbox," I said. "This is insane." They asked me what happened. I told them. I even showed them the camera footage from my doorbell cam showing me walking across the street, closing the box, and walking back. They didn't arrest me. Didn't accuse me of anything. But they asked if I owned any firearms, if I had any legal issues. Then they thanked me for my time and left. But it rattled me. I'd never had federal agents at my door. Ever. I walked across the street that night and knocked on her door. She opened it just a crack, enough to let me see her eyes. "You don't belong here," she whispered. "I'll make sure you leave." Then she slammed it shut. No idea what the hell she meant by that. The next day, I got a certified letter. The kind you have to sign for. It had the HOA's name on it. Inside was a formal notice. Someone had filed complaints against me. Multiple. It listed threatening a neighbor, tampering with property, and creating a hostile environment. I was being called to a disciplinary hearing with the HOA. They were considering eviction. I read the letter twice. It felt like a prank. But it wasn't. I started digging. I requested the minutes from the last few HOA meetings. I started checking the HOA board names. I found out Loretta used to be the HOA president. Still very involved. Knew everyone. Played cards with 2 of the current board members every Thursday. I wasn't just dealing with some nosy old lady. I was up against someone who knew how to pull strings. Then someone in the neighborhood. One of the few I talked to, a guy named Brian, mentioned a Facebook group I hadn't been added to. Private group, just for residents. I made a burner account and got in. That's when I saw it. Post from Loretta warning the neighborhood about me. Saying I had threatened her. Said I was observing children and acting erratic. There were over a dozen comments under her post. A few said, "Thanks for the warning." One said, "We need to keep this street safe." Nobody asked for proof. She was poisoning the neighborhood against me. So I started documenting everything. Bought cameras. Installed them on every corner of my property. Kept a log of every interaction. Recorded conversations where it was legal. Got a lawyer on retainer. That's when I noticed something else. Almost every morning, around 6:45, she'd step out to get her paper. But she'd linger at the edge of her porch. Facing my house. Watching. Watching. She started taking photos of me. I caught her with her phone. Once when I was mowing the lawn. Once when I was getting my mail. Then I got a notice from the county about a noise complaint. Said I'd been operating loud machinery after dark. Total lie. I'm asleep by 10. Every night. I knew it was her. I just didn't know why. She wanted me gone. And she was using every trick in the book to make it happen. But I'm not going anywhere. After the noise complaint, I got serious. This wasn't just neighbor drama. This was a setup. Someone trying to build a file on me. I didn't know what Loretta's end goal was, but it was clear she wanted me out. And she wasn't afraid to lie to make it happen. I started talking to neighbors. Carefully. One by one. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I just asked how long they'd lived here, how well they knew Loretta. Most people said the same thing. She's old school, she's nosy, but harmless. Or, she's been here forever. But a few of them gave me something more. She didn't like the family before you either, said Mr. Halverson, 2 doors down. Young couple. Real quiet. Next thing you know, they're gone. Moved out after less than a year. I asked why. He just shrugged. Never said. But I saw her out front yelling at them once. Accused them of something with their dog. No one else ever had a problem with them. It clicked. This was a pattern. She'd done this before. Maybe not to this level. Maybe not with the feds. But she had a history of driving people out. Probably anyone who didn't fit her idea of belonging. One morning I caught her on my property. She thought I wasn't home. I had driven to a gas station, then circled back because I forgot my wallet. As I pulled up, I saw her on the side of my house, bending over near the AC unit. I hit the horn and jumped out. "What are you doing?" I shouted. She straightened up fast. "You're trespassing," she screamed. "You're on my property." She walked past me like I didn't exist, eyes locked forward, muttering to herself. I checked the area. Nothing obvious was out of place. But it made my skin crawl. I checked the footage. Of course, she stayed out of range of the main cameras. So I added more. That night I reviewed older clips frame by frame. I found her once before, about 2 weeks earlier, standing just inside the line of my yard. Looking at my windows. Not moving. Not talking. Just standing there for 5 solid minutes. She was watching me. The next day, I got an anonymous letter. No return address again. Inside was a printed out photo of me in my kitchen, talking on the phone. It had been taken through my window. No note. No message. Just that photo. I reported it to the police. They shrugged. Said it was creepy, yes. But not illegal. Told me to keep documenting. That was it. Then came the HOA hearing. It was held in the community center. 3 board members sat behind a table. Loretta wasn't one of them, but she was sitting front row. Smug. Like she already knew the outcome. They brought up the complaints. They used words like pattern of behavior and concern from multiple residents. I asked who the other complaints came from. They wouldn't say. I gave them everything. All the footage. The recordings. The anonymous photo. I explained how the claims were false, how this felt personal, targeted. I even showed a timeline. Each complaint had come right after I refused to back down. The board didn't say much. Just nodded. Took notes. After the hearing, Loretta passed by me as she left. Leaned in close and whispered, "I warned you. You should have left quiet." That's when I realized it wasn't just personal. She wanted to ruin me. That night, someone egged my car. 2 nights later, a rock went through my window. No note. Just shattered glass and silence. I filed a police report. They did nothing. I checked the footage. Saw 2 hooded figures, late teens maybe, but couldn't see their faces. They came from the direction of her house. Not proof. But I knew. I knew what she was doing. Then, one morning, I got an email from work. IT security flagged unusual login attempts from my IP. Someone had tried to access internal systems using my credentials. I had to go through a full review with my job's legal team. Almost got suspended. I changed every password. Put 2-factor on everything. I even started sleeping with the lights on downstairs. She wasn't just trying to get me evicted anymore. She was trying to make me lose everything. That's when I got the second certified letter. This one was from the county zoning board. It said someone had filed a formal report claiming I was running an unauthorized business out of my home. That I had heavy traffic, equipment deliveries, and clients coming at all hours. I work in IT. Alone. On Zoom. But now I was flagged for zoning violations. More inspections were coming. Loretta was escalating. And I had no idea just how far she'd go next. The zoning inspection was a joke. 2 guys from the county showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. One walked around the property while the other asked me questions inside, clipboard in hand. "Do you see clients here?" "No." "Do you store any inventory?" "No." "Have you had deliveries outside of normal household stuff?" "Amazon and pizza." He nodded, barely looking at me. I could tell by his face he didn't want to be there. After 10 minutes, he said, "We've had 3 separate complaints. All anonymous." Then he looked me dead in the eye. But all came in the same handwriting. That got my attention. "Handwriting?" I asked. He nodded. They were mailed in. Not emailed. All the envelopes were handwritten. Same style. Tight, shaky letters. Looks like someone older. "Just so you know." I thanked him. He left. That was the first crack in the wall. I decided to do something I should have done weeks ago. I visited the county records office and requested public complaints and documents connected to my address. There were 9 separate complaints filed in the last 3 months. Noise. Trash. Grass height. Illegal signage. I don't have a sign. Suspicious activity. Unauthorized business. All mailed in. All handwritten. Every one of them was signed. Concerned neighbor. It was her. Loretta. No doubt. But then I found something else. While I was at the county office, I searched her name. Loretta Hemsworth had been involved in 3 civil disputes with previous residents in the last 5 years. One involved a restraining order. One was dismissed. The other ended with a settlement and the resident moving away. She had a pattern. She did this to people over and over. I called the law firm listed on the settled case. Didn't think I'd get anywhere. But someone called me back. A junior associate. Told me off the record that Loretta had a long history of leveraging her influence in the HOA to push out neighbors she didn't approve of. She knows how to create chaos and stay clean, he said. And just like that, the pieces locked together. But things took a sharp turn the next weekend. I left town overnight for my cousin's wedding. Got back Sunday afternoon and found my back gate open. I never leave it unlocked. I walked into the backyard and froze. Someone had killed my garden. All the pots were smashed. My raised beds ripped apart. Soil dumped out. Plants shredded. Even the latticework I built was kicked in. This wasn't random vandalism. This was targeted. Personal. I checked the cameras. Same as before, someone had come in from the back corner, where the cameras didn't reach. I filed another police report. Told them about the previous complaints. The anonymous letters. The photo. They nodded, made notes, said there wasn't much they could do without solid evidence. I felt helpless. Every time I tried to stand up, she hit harder. But then something changed. One of the board members, Jim Keller, a retired postal worker, called me. Said he wanted to meet off the record. I met him at a diner on Route 1. Real quiet place. He looked nervous. Kept his voice low. I shouldn't be telling you this, he said, but Loretta's been feeding the HOA false info. She says you're unstable. That you yelled at her. That you threatened her. That's a lie. I know. That's why I'm telling you. She did the same thing to the Winters family before you. Got them fined over and over. When they finally sold the house, she bragged about it. Why? Jim looked tired. She thinks she owns the street. Anyone who doesn't fall in line? She finds a way to push them out. He slid a flash drive across the table. I saved copies of the complaint emails she sent the board. They're full of contradictions. Some are straight up made up. Use it however you want. But don't say it came from me. I thanked him. Drove home. Plugged it in. It was gold. She'd emailed the board claiming I yelled at her on March 3rd, but I was out of town that entire weekend. She said I held parties late at night, but 2 of those dates were during snowstorms when nobody was outside. One email claimed she saw me walking around shirtless with a weapon in hand. Turns out she was referring to a garden rake. She was fabricating everything. But what I didn't expect was what I saw in one of the attachments. A scanned letter. From her. Dated 2 months ago. It was addressed to a woman named Diana Everly. In the letter, Loretta thanked Diana for providing the background check and history on the new neighbor. And wrote, "You were right. He's not a good fit for our street. I'll keep you posted. You know I always get results." I didn't know who Diana was. But I was about to find out. I looked her up. Diana Everly was the HOA president. Not just a name on paper, she ran the meetings, signed the letters, controlled the agenda. And she was Loretta's niece. The whole HOA was rigged. This wasn't just a personal feud. It was a family operation. The second I found out Diana was Loretta's niece, everything made sense. The false complaints, the biased HOA letters, the hearing, it was all rigged from the start. I wasn't just dealing with a bitter old woman. I was dealing with a whole system built to protect her. And I was done playing defense. I printed every email, every scan, and every complaint. I hired a lawyer. Not a cheap one, a real estate litigator who knew how to handle HOA abuse. I gave her the whole story. She read it all in silence, then said, "This is actionable. Big time." She filed a formal legal complaint against the HOA and named Diana and Loretta personally. The lawsuit wasn't about money. It was about exposure. The claim? HOA harassment, abuse of authority, fraudulent complaints, and conspiracy to defame and evict a homeowner under false pretenses. Within 2 weeks, the HOA board panicked. They tried to settle. My lawyer refused. She wanted depositions. She wanted records. She wanted emails. And when we got discovery? Oh man. We found out Loretta had been working with her niece to run background checks on every new homeowner. They'd used HOA funds to do it. Illegally. They even blacklisted people based on stuff that had nothing to do with the neighborhood. Divorces, jobs. One guy had a bankruptcy 10 years ago, and they flagged him as unreliable. It didn't stop there. Turns out Loretta also had a burner email account she used to send fake, anonymous, complaints to the HOA about anyone she didn't like. Her niece would log them and use them as cause for warnings and fines. It had been going on for years. They'd pushed out at least 4 families before me. That flash drive Jim gave me? That blew the case open. When the judge saw all the evidence, including the scanned letter Loretta wrote to Diana admitting she was trying to get rid of me, he lit them up. The HOA was ordered to pay damages. I got every fine wiped. Every complaint cleared. The HOA board was forced to resign, all of them. The court appointed a temporary third-party manager to take over until a new board could be elected by the homeowners. But that wasn't the end of it. Loretta wasn't just embarrassed, she was exposed. Her reputation in the neighborhood crumbled. People she'd known for 20 years stopped talking to her. She tried to act like the victim, but the proof was everywhere. People printed the court documents. They passed them around. She couldn't even walk to her mailbox without someone staring her down. And speaking of the mailbox, turns out she had tampered with mine. After everything came out, I got a call from one of the federal agents who had visited me months earlier. He said they reopened their file. Turns out Loretta had contacted a friend of hers, someone who used to work in postal security, and tried to get my name flagged for suspicious mail activity. She wanted me labeled a domestic threat. She wasn't just trying to ruin my reputation. She wanted me in handcuffs. The agent told me she crossed several lines, including filing a false federal report. At her age, they weren't going to send her to prison. But she was put under official investigation. She lost her security clearance from her past government job. Her pension was reviewed. And her name is now flagged in federal databases for abuse of process. She was done. But here's the part no one saw coming. A few months after the trial, her house went up for sale. Quietly. No signs. Just a listing. She moved out in the middle of the night. One moving truck. Gone by morning. I found out later through a neighbor she'd moved in with a cousin in Maryland. Couldn't afford the legal fallout. Couldn't face the street. Diana? She got booted from the HOA and lost her job after her employer found out she'd used company resources for private background checks. She tried to sue for wrongful termination and lost. As for me? I stayed. I rebuilt my garden. I joined the new HOA board, just to make sure no one ever pulled the same crap again. I still keep the flash drive Jim gave me in my desk drawer. Not because I need it now, but because it reminds me what happens when you stay quiet for too long. Next time someone tries to make me leave, they better pack first.